Hello, YouTube. Welcome to the third episode of my Siege Tactics video. This is going to be the low-tier Vampire Coast army build. So, let's begin with the army composition. We have Aranessa Saltspite as our lord here. And as a hero, we have brought along with us a Gunnery Wight. They are going to be absorbing the tower damage for us today. For our chaff, we have 6 units of zombie pirate deckhand mobs with the halberds. And we've brought 2 of the animated hulks with us. And 4 of the zombie pirate deckhand mobs, or deckhand mobs with handguns. We also have 2 different types of siege pieces here. We have 2 of each of the carronade and mortar variant. And we have 2 deck droppers in the air for us. As for our enemies composition, we have their lord as a Saurus Oldblood here, and their hero is a Scar Veteran up on the wall. They have 1 unit of Temple Guard, 4 units of Saurus Spears located on the walls. They have 3 Chameleon Skinks in the front of the wall, 4 units of the Skink cohorts with Javelins on the wall, and 2 regular cohorts which are off the wall. They have 2 Cold One Spear Riders, or not Spear Riders, just the regular Cold Ones, and 1 Feral Bastiladon and another Feral Stegodon over here. So that's it for the army formations. For our army deployment, we have our carronades and our mortars in the back, and our lord and our hero in the front in range of this tower, so these 2 towers in the front here. Forgive me, I'm using an Xbox controller to avoid any clacking noises from my mechanical keyboard. And it's kind of difficult to control the camera. And we have another tower here which is online, which the Gunnery Wight is in range of the 2 towers on the right and will be taking damage for both of those. Aside from that, we have a standard melee in front, missiles in back formation with 2 monstrous-esque units on the left and right of our missile infantry, providing flank support. This is just a sort of standard formation for the beginning of the battle, and we have our deck droppers in the back, ready to either move on to the left or right flank, or defend our siege pieces from any flanking units that may try to get us. As this army formation, or composition, not necessarily the formation, is also an army that's supposed to be able to win battles on the open battlefield in the early game of the campaign, but not necessarily against an army like this one that we are fighting in the siege battle. But we are here just to demonstrate that lower tier armies can win against higher tier armies in siege warfare if you just play the game accordingly to the strongest pieces in this army, which are going to be obviously the siege equipment, the mortars, and the carronade, and show how they can carry a very weak army against a very strong army in a battle specifically like this one. So the battle commences and we begin to target the first tower here in the middle, and then we follow it up with focusing on the tower on the right, and then the tower on the left. Now, it might be advised to not target the tower on the right initially, but instead to destroy the target over here on the left after this tower, because sometimes the AI will move these units into a different location and this tower will no longer be online, and you could use that ammo in a different situation later in the battle instead of destroying a tower. Now that the towers are destroyed, we are going to move our army forwards towards the wall. I will speed this up so we can see the formation that I take. In the meantime, we have the carronades targeting their hero, and we are going to begin mortar fire onto the missile units on the wall. We move our units here, as you can see, just so that their range is right in front of the wall, but not over the wall. That way there's the option of leaving them in fire at will for any units that may try to contest your units in the field here by exiting through the front gate, which we will get an example of later in the game. Now we also move our deck droppers just outside the range of the skinks, the chameleon skinks specifically. That way we can reveal their location on the wall and begin targeting them, as they are a prime target for our mortar fire in this early game, as they are the biggest threat to our deck droppers, who, once all the missile infantry on the enemy's wall is clear, can hover over and prioritize greater threats like the Saurus Spears or even the Temple Guard and eliminate them without any, I guess, contesting areas of the enemy's control from, missile fire from the skinks. At this point, I am just going to bomb them to hell. A quick tip when targeting units with the mortars: make sure you use the Gunnery Wight's ability to enhance ballistics to increase their accuracy and fire rate. And also, I manually target where the mortars shoot with Alt right click and target high value clusters. So when there are two units back to back on the wall like this, targeting in between them or like towards like just the tail of like these chameleons that are on the inner side of the wall will grant great value in your missiles. Now, as you can see here, this skink cohort begins to leave the walls into the range of both my deck drop gunners or deck droppers and the handgun mobs. Pretty sure, what are these guys called again? Let's find out. While they gun them down, those little skinkies. Oh yeah, just regular deck droppers. But as you can see, any kind of unit that steps out into this area is just going to get gunned down immediately and neutralized to the point where they're no longer a threat. Now, as you can see, I am actually moving my siege pieces forward, as the mortars are going to have better accuracy and so better efficiency with their ammunition by firing from a closer range. And I move my carronades in tow Also, so that they stay in the range of the Gunnery Wight's enhanced ballistics ability. Now, the Carronade, we are still going to continue to target the Saurus Scar Veteran, as it is actually a larger piece so it has a larger hitbox than any of the other units, and it's on one of these parallel aisles. There are 2 of them that are like potential targets, so either these skink cohorts are a very good target, or these skink cohorts, or the Saurus Scar Veteran, merely because trying to fire directly into units that are on the perpendicular part of the wall on the outside from like the targeting trajectory of the Carronades tend to just shoot directly into the wall or into like these little pyramid pieces that stick up, which do break eventually, but the chances of your Carronade shooting through the same little pyramid twice in a row is very low, and it's most likely going to shoot over or into the wall. So I figured that the Saurus Scar Veteran would be a better target, but you could also choose to target other units that are positioned parallel on these little pieces, such as these skinks with javelins. A key part of being effective in this bombardment stage of the battle with the mortars is to be, again, constantly using the Gunnery Wight's enhanced ballistic ability and its more powder ability to provide more ammunition and better accuracy for the mortar crew, so that they effectively get to more kills with their ammunition, and also increasing their ammunition with the more powder ability. Around this point in the game, I believe I had done enough damage to the missile infantry, so I decided to use the rest of my mortar ammunition on the Temple Guard, who are definitely going to be difficult to cut through with zombie pirate deckhand mobs. So we decided to take them out with the mortars instead. As you can see, some Saurus try to get brave again, but since we have our handguns in fire at will mode, they will take fire trying to leave the gate. They immediately try to run towards the other gate, which is a very, very interesting play. I don't think it's going to work out well for them though. But they do eventually get away with most of their numbers intact. But a very pointless play by the AI. Here's some more footage of me targeting the elite Lizardmen infantry, the Temple Guard, just to make sure that they're very soft and squishy for when my very, very soft and squishy infantry climb the wall. And I decide to move my deck droppers into a position to attempt to fire onto the Saurus Scar Veteran. I leave them in fire at will mode, as I don't want them to actually move into the line of fire, because these skink cohorts still have potential to wipe out a few of my units, and I'm just not quite ready to engage with them yet. So you gotta be very conservative, especially if you don't bring a lore of vampires with you in this battle, which is definitely something that will be in the next Vampire Coast siege tutorial in the high tier army, in the form of very likely our Lord, who will be the great Count Noculus. But for now, we advance our gunnery mobs forward so that they could actually begin firing onto the wall. Now, a lot of their shots are missing, as you can see, which is why we don't rely on them in the beginning. At this point, it's to just whittle down what's left on the wall and attempt to rout them off of the wall. As you can see, the firing over their heads, even if it's missing, still provides a negative leadership attribute onto the enemy, so they are more likely to run away, which is exactly what we want them to do, as we don't need to kill every single one if they just run off the battlefield. Now once these mobs scale onto the wall, I will allow them to slowly whittle down the units on the wall, and once Aranessa breaks open the gate, I have her go inside and scale up the wall. That way she doesn't suffer any vigor loss due to scaling the wall from the outside on a ladder. So she's a much more formidable opponent now than if she were to try to scale the wall and lose all her vigor, just in case their lord decided to take the fight up onto the wall. I then also move the deck droppers over their lord and begin expending the rest of my ammunition into, well, their lord, to do as much damage as I can, as breaking their leadership and finishing and routing them off is a very easy way of, an effective way of winning the battle without having to kill all of their units, especially since these Saurus are still very much capable of killing many of these deckhand mobs with their few numbers. Though it looks like they're more likely to run off the battlefield at this point, since we just have so many numbers. I also leave my animated hulks outside the wall, as they don't need to enter the wall and aggro unnecessarily these cold ones or the other monstrous units in the Stegodon and Bastiladon. And since none of those units can actually scale the wall, the next part of this game is going to be positioning my gun units on the inside of the wall and my melee units on the outside of the wall, and effectively forming a kill box in this area that will finish off the lord and the monsters, and would then effectively win the game that way. My guns are getting in position, and they will soon fire into the Stegodon, and if anything, it is something that may have needed to be done in order to attract the dinosaurs into the kill box anyways, though we could have used the animated hulks for that also, but it's probably for the best that we use one of the zombie pirate deckhand mobs, as we can likely recruit one from the graveyard very easily after this battle. So I cast a net to hold the Stegodon in place, which is a little unnecessary, but just so that it doesn't decide to wander off anywhere, but I'm pretty sure it would have just been occupied in the meantime by these deckhand mobs. Now at this point, it's just shooting lizards in a basket, or snakes in a basket, I guess, because they're not in barrels and they're not fish. And effectively winning the game by killing their Stegodon and having the rest of their army suffer leadership penalty through army losses, and claiming victory, which I will allow you guys to graciously watch in, I guess, real time instead of fast forwarding, just because of how exciting it is to watch all these guns lay into that poor Stegodon in this beautiful kill box that we set up. Now, of course, this principle applies to any faction against pretty much any other faction with any missile units on the wall and any kind of monstrous unit inside the wall. This would have worked just as well against, you know, ancient Stegodons or Vargeists, or any kind of like cav units like Demigryphs. I'm sorry for my phone going off, I should have muted that, but you get the general picture. So I hope that this video was a little bit cleaner than the last video, as there shouldn't be any clicking noises going on, and there should be fewer pauses in between certain statements that I'm making and points that I'm making in the game. I also cut the video up as to compact it and make it shorter. And I'm also going to be releasing them in 2 parts instead of a single part, like in episode 2, so that there is a separate video for the low tier army, which this is, and a separate video again for the high tier army, which will be next after this one. So I hope you guys enjoy the series. I'll be going through all the races, both with a low tier and a high tier army. If you have any suggestions, like particular maps or particular race matchups, leave them in the comments and I'll take them into consideration when I go through with making that video, or if I decide to make like a special video on a race that I've already completed if the scenario is unique enough to warrant it. Thank you. Remember to like the video, subscribe, and follow my Twitch, twitch.tv/LeroyKid, where I live stream games like Total War Warhammer 2 on a daily basis. See you there. Bye.